Alright, so it's been a while since I made a video, and I usually do like some electronic, and I don't have I done 3D modeling? I know there's a lot of Kerbal Space stuff, but that might be on my other channel. But, and like Astro and 3D printing, but I moved, and I do other bright LED lights too, which I've been having some fun with here, my off time. But I bought this fixer-upper house. There was a giant garbage pile there, and I've been burning it. But the house that I moved into has this giant, stagnant, algae-infested pond. It's just totally algae. So, and I need to pump it, and at least get the water moving. But that's a lot of energy to have like a centrifugal pump running at the gallons per hour that I need for this. It'd be like 600 watts an hour. If at the lowest for this size pond, it's probably about twice as wide as the house foundation, square foot wise. Pretty big pond. It takes up. Ooh, there's a hawk through the woods. It's pretty cool. Love it up here. So I was just kind of gonna let it sit, and we were even thinking maybe we just let it die and fill in, because it's just totally green and gross and kind of an eyesore. It obviously needs a lot of pruning and such around it. It's just kind of let go for a decade or so, like the rest of the house, which I'm not going to show right now because it's pretty bad. Well, here's the garage. I mean, gives you a good idea of like, just let this thing sit for years on end. We just put a new roof on it. The roof was terribly bad and leaking. But I discovered, anyway, back to the pumping. So I discovered you can actually use nature's laws to benefit you. Kind of like you can use water flowing downhill to generate power. You can use air, natural tendency to be buoyant and flow up, to make water move. And so it's called an Airlifter pump. And I've been invested like, I don't know, $300 in some parts, which is currently about half the price of like a 900 watt pump that could kind of filter that pond. And of course that's susceptible to like muck and stuff like that. But anyway, you use air rising and water surface tension to make bubbles that pulls the air along. Also, it's making the water less dense, and the water that is not aerated is more dense, so naturally it wants to come down. And if you have it in a cylinder or any kind of tank, that weight of that unaerated water will push the aerated water up a tube. And so I decided to, experiment and see if this was real and not one of those like fake free energy kind of deals going on. So the basic, you can look up an Airlifter pump. There's a lot of videos on them, but I've got this 100-watt air pump here and some crappy silicone tubing. So very rudimentary right now, just kind of testing it. And actually, while I'm talking, let's get the hose going so I can fill this up for another round. Whoops. Now, I imagine that my airline is creating a siphon. It looks pretty full of water. Oh well. The pump should be... Oh, is the pump totally watered? It is, isn't it? Ah, geez, I never even thought about that. Ah, crap. Alright, where was it? Yeah, I forgot the laws of water. If you have a pipe, it will siphon down to a lower point, which was the pump. I have moved the pump onto the top of the garage door, which is now much higher than the test tank there. Anyway, so I have a few fittings and different pipe pieces and stuff laying around. I'll get to those later, I guess. But a lot of people build this weird fancy chamber around this tube at the bottom of the tube and drill couple hundred holes in there. And I don't know. I don't feel like doing that right now. I just want to see if it works, like in a basic, unoptimal system. So what I'm doing right now, a 4-inch pipe I was having trouble with. I guess I don't have enough like fittings or whatever to test. The guy I bought this house from had a few pieces of 3-inch PVC laying around, so a lot of fittings. So I'm using that right now just to test. So right now we've just got the air tube going down the throat of the pipe, and at the bottom right now I've got this large adapter, and the air stone is down there, and basically the air flows up into this funnel and should theoretically do all those things I talked about earlier, but with the air making the water less dense, and then the air moving up, flowing into the funnel, and shooting out of this thing here. And I ran it earlier, and I guess I should top it off a little more. Now, this won't pump, this will not pump water very high above the, well, it can pump water pretty far above the surface, but ever increasing rates. But for the pond, I just need to get it moving, and maybe moving into a bog filter, which I would dig out in this area here. And so it's pretty level with it, and so I don't really need but like an inch or two of movement above the water. But what I do need is for it not to use a lot of power. And so for a 100-watt air filter, you can go as low as 20, but I just happen to have this one because it was used on Amazon for a pretty good price. So I figured I'd go with that for now, and I can always turn the power down if I need to. But so the air, like I said, it's basically like a big kind of hydraulic piston. The heavier water makes the bubbleized water less dense and shoot up the tube and out. And all the time it's going up the tube, it gains speed. So this one is, like I said, not optimal. It's only like a 2-foot section of pipe, and the bubbles are only going 2 feet. Ideally, I think at least 4 to 6 feet is how much pipe you need. You want it to be moving air. And so just from this unoptimal setup, I filled up half of a 2-gallon bucket in about 7 to 10 seconds. It's hard to know because as the water's coming out, it's going down in the tube, which lessens the effect. But I kind of used some like fuzzy logic to figure out that it's about 2.5 gallons every 7 to 10 seconds, which puts you at like 900 kind of gallons an hour, which for it being, like I said, not optimal and not being the right setup, that's pretty good. So I think I'm gonna, kind of move forward with this and all that. But there's a bunch of talking. Let me go ahead and give it a quick demo. And let's see, the water's gonna come out about here. And somewhere there's a kink in the hose. That's cool. And I should do it. Whoa. So you can see it's pretty violent, and it's already emptied a fair bit of the tank. But we'll just go ahead and let it run itself out here. As you can see, as it pumps, it dwindles in its ability pretty quickly. Oh, maybe not. Well, it starts sputtering, but yeah, so that's about a foot above the water. And obviously there's a lot of air escaping from the little funnel also, which where you pull that air stone up, so it's not so much escaping, it's still filling up the bucket as it ever increases in height above the water. Actually, it's pretty impressive even right now. obviously not very many gallons per minute now, but I mean, we're going at least a foot above the water there. And if we pull the pump, you'll see it's probably even less. Yeah, now if there's not a bunch of bubbles in the water, it's probably about 14 inches. So, yeah, I think I'm going to move forward with this to get that water moving. It's raining. So what I'll do is I'll dig a big shaft and put this pipe down, and maybe as much of that as I can get in the ground, and have a siphon going from the pond into this, and that will fill the shaft, and then get a proper long pipe and proper exit pipe, and figure out which chamber works best, like the funnel with the air stone underneath of it, or the injector funnel of a chamber. We'll have to see what does the job. I've seen some people just use a classic air stone at the bottom. I've been, kind of dwelling on what I could use for this purpose. Apparently, the smaller the bubbles and the more bubbles, the better the flow. But I think my next step is to maybe just buy a big long air stone and put that in a pipe for now, and maybe get a 4-inch connector and 4-inch pieces to use an actual 4-inch pipe. Get that all going. Yeah, so that's just me rambling on out loud, but it is going to be one of my creations, and hopefully it will beautify that pond there. Alright, signing off.